You're listening to the Agent and the Fan podcast with sports agent Chris Leible and fan Lou Columna.
Welcome, everybody, to the Agent and the Fan podcast. I'm Chris Leible. I'm the agent. I'm here with my man, Lou Columna. Lou's the fan. Lou, what's up?
What's not up, man? Baseball season is fully on the way. A lot of great stories, a lot of great things. My Yankees, your Mets in first place. What could be worse? A lot to discuss, though. Those will all be things that we're going to get into right now. But first, let's talk about the big, huge news of the day. Take it away.
Yes. Well, the big news to which you are referring is I'm back. I've started my own company, my own agency, full service agency. We handle everything, and I'm very excited about it. It's called Smooth Baseball. And I'm looking forward to getting back in as an active agent. I love doing the show. We'll keep doing the show and we'll enjoy doing the show. But I'm looking forward to being back on the agent side and doing what I feel like I really do best. So I'm excited about this and looking forward to kind of getting my hands dirty again and getting back out there and doing the work that we talk about a lot on the show, but to be actually back in the game is exciting. We had a big launch, and I'm very excited to be back. So it's going to be great. I think I learned a lot of lessons from doing this for as many years as I have. I feel like some of the things that I've done in the past, we're going to move forward from some new things to do, and trying to improve things, make things better for players. So that's where it is. And of course, make things better for players from no matter where they're from. So if you're watching or you know a baseball player, this is a place to come. Smooth Baseball. I run it. I've teamed up with two of the best lawyers in the whole world, I think. Certainly in the country. They're really good. They're huge baseball people, and they know the game. And awesome individuals. I just feel like it's just a perfect storm. It's a great situation. And I think with all my experience and teaming up with these guys, it's just a great opportunity. And I'm really looking forward to working with players and getting things going. So it's exciting times.
I can imagine, man. I mean, this is, obviously, the industry has changed in so many different ways. And for you, I feel like, coming back in now is the right time because it gives you a whole different perspective because, you're coming in like with fresh eyes, so to speak. And
no question. No, you're absolutely right. It's a different game. It's changed quite a bit in the few years since I've been, fully active. I've done some things. I've still kept my, foot in the door, but now to be full back in, it's really exciting. I'm looking forward to kind of, like you said, you take a step back. I was on the front line for so long. Take a step back, now to get back in. It's a great time to do it, and I'm excited. So,
well, you heard it here, folks. Any ball players, you know who to contact. My main man.
Check us out at Smooth, the #1 baseball on Instagram and X, LinkedIn. So we're all out there. Smooth Baseball. I'm telling you, it's going to be a big thing. And a lot of the former players that I've worked with are involved, and really helping guide me more than anything else, kind of what they want to see, what they like, what they think is good, what is important. And I think that's a huge thing that I'm bringing to the table here with this new agency. So we're going to kind of guide it the way the players think it should be guided. So that's the whole thing. So anyway, I appreciate you bringing it up, Lou. I'm very excited. So
that's awesome. So let's get to business. I mean, first month of the season, typically, you get things, you're feeling out things, who's playing well, who's not. It's been a really, really interesting first month of the season. I want to start off first and foremost with, the big fish of the free agent class, Juan Soto. Give me your take on his first month with the Mets.
Yeah, so it's been interesting. I think obviously he came in with a lot of fanfare and with his salary, obviously that comes with it, the territory. I don't, he's gotten off to a little bit of a slow start. Uh, it's baseball. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's ebbs and flows. It's a long season. I wouldn't read into too much of any of it. I think with Juan Soto is a great player. You're seeing flashes of his greatness. You're seeing some great at bats. You've seen some tough at bats for him too. It's part of the game. The other thing is, I think I know just from playing myself and just a lot of Latin players, just talking to a lot of players, especially Latin players. The weather has been so bad, especially in the Northeast this April. It's very hard to hit, especially in the terrible weather when it's 40 degrees and raining and 30-mile-an-hour winds every day for like a month. It's very difficult, and I think people don't realize that. Pitchers, it's not good for anybody. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not making excuses because some guys are tearing it up, but I'm just saying, like, it's difficult for players to do it. Some guys do better than others. I personally hated playing in cold weather, so I don't like to even be outside in cold weather, or and it's hard to play baseball in cold weather. Pitchers, too, but pitchers, I feel like they have a very they enjoy it because
they
know it hurts. Yeah, it gives them the advantage. They the players don't hit the ball right. It hurts their hands, and it's just not. It's not a lot of fun to get in there and dig in.
Yeah, or they get hit by a pitch and it doesn't feel good.
The pitch feels much worse. All those things. So it's I don't read too much into it. I think it took Francisco Lindor not a long time, but relatively speaking, a long time. And then even last year, which he had been with the Mets for a few years before that, he had gotten off to a really poor start in the first half of the season. Yeah. And then when June came around and they, at the time they had moved him to the leadoff spot, whatever happened, he changed his at-bat music to My Girl, whatever the change was, it clicked. And ever since that, Lindor has been an absolute monster for the Mets. He's been everything they could have asked for when they got him and traded for him and gave him a lot of money and all those things. And I think that, I expect the same thing from Soto. I think Soto is a terrific player. He's obviously a great hitter. His defense has been pretty steady. I know a lot of Yankee fans, not you, but the haters. I know when you use that, his defense is, but his defense has been pretty good. And, he's got a good arm. He's, he can go get the balls, out there. I don't know if he's a platinum glove winner, but
I mean, we know he's not. I mean, listen, I've been consistent with this. I love the player. I would have taken him back in 2 heartbeats and given him $800 million. I could care less about the money. I just didn't. I personally, 15 years is a long time to commit. And again, we're far from that. That doesn't matter. The other thing that's interesting to me is, as a Met fan, I wonder, or Met fans rather, if the Mets are successful this year and Soto, nothing crazy, are they disappointed if they don't, because to me, it's like, it feels like for them, it's World Series or bust. And if Soto has a good year, but listen, personally, I don't think he's going to have the year he had last year, because last year was just off the chart. To me, he's not a consistent 41 homer guy. He's going to get between 28 to 32 home runs a year. You expect him to get 110 RBIs at 300, which is great. But I think for me is the spotlight is on him so much because of the money, fair or unfairly. Where in Washington, he had Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper was the golden child, the 19-year-old sensation. He goes to San Diego. You got Fernando Tatis Jr. and you got Manny Machado. You come to the Yankees, you have Aaron Judge, of course, and so now he's at the forefront. And for me, he was pressing a little bit. And I think and it's just natural, right? You go through the laundry list of players who've come to New York. Doesn't matter how great you are, and doesn't matter that you played with the Yankees last year. There's a certain expectation that you feel as a person when you want to hit the 3-run homer, you want to get the RBI, to win the game. And it's at the end of the day, this is a hard game. No matter how great you are, this is a hard game to play.
No, 100%, and I see him getting frustrated at the game this week, and I saw he made an out in a key situation. I see him frustrated, but I think he's a real confident individual from what I could tell. I don't think it really phases him, and at the end of the day, he'll put up his numbers. We talked about this last show. I don't think if the Mets succeed and do well, and as we're talking here now, they have the best record in baseball. I don't think they're going to sit and go, oh, well, Juan Soto didn't hit this many home runs. He only hit this many home runs. They win. They're going to be happy. Whether they're going to say like, oh, well, we overpaid for him or not. I mean, that's insignificant to me as, as a fan, as a, an age, whatever it is. I mean, so what? I mean, it's part of the game, and whether they overpaid for him, underpaid for him, or they paid him just right, it doesn't matter. It is what it is. He got the contract that someone was willing to pay him, and I believe he'll pay off. I think he's a terrific player. He's a centerpiece type of guy. I think he's a confident guy. I think he'll heat up as the weather heats up, and things will which it seems like it's starting to get a little nicer now. Yeah. So
I just feel like for me is the expectation, right? It's like a lot of these, and again, not every Met fan, but you have a lot of fans like, we're giving you $50 million a year. They're expecting 45 bombs. Are they going to be happy with?
See, I disagree with that. I think if the Mets win, they're not gonna sit here and go, oh, well, let's split hairs over. Well, we expected 15 more home runs from you. I don't think that.
Here's the catch though. Let's say they don't make it to they're going to get to the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs. They fall short of the World Series, and he did not come up big in certain spots.
Well, then of course they're going to do it, but they will. But I'm saying like if they win,
if they win, they're happy, right? And that's across the board. And I always talk to a lot of people when they talk about like, Aaron, like now, which is and we'll get to the Yankees in a second. The annoying thing that I get as a Yankee fan now is like, oh, Aaron Judge, great, the greatest, best baseball player right now playing, but in the playoffs, and like, you got to get to the playoffs. Number one. Number two, I can go down a laundry list of great players who did not play well in the postseason, and then all of a sudden they got into a series or a season where they played well in the postseason. One of the guys that I think David Price, I remember, was constantly getting trashed. Never in the postseason, never. All of a sudden he goes to the Dodgers and he's killing it.
No, listen, Mike. People forget about this. Michael Jordan, when he first came into the NBA back in the day, was a great scorer and a great dunker and a flashy player, but the Bulls weren't winning back then, and they would say like, "Well, yeah, he's a great player, but he doesn't win." And then all of a sudden, look what happened, and he became like the champion that everybody knows him as. So again, you got to let the time come and let the opportunities come. And one season doesn't make it, and it's gonna, like you said, it's a long-term deal, and we'll see how it plays out for Juan. I expect he'll be back on track, and he'll be doing things that Juan Soto does, and he'll have a great year. So yeah, that's how I feel too. And so I feel like that. I have to say one thing though, from watching him pretty regularly over the past month, more than I've seen, obviously I've seen him play quite a bit through the years. I have to tell you this, and again, you'll say what you say, and people will agree or disagree, but the guy that he reminds me a lot of, and I wish he would have played a little later in this time than he did back then. But Juan Soto reminds me a lot of a former client of mine, Bobby Abreu. He's very, very similar.
Bobby with power.
What's that?
Bobby with power.
Well, Bobby, it was a 30-30 guy. I mean, Bobby ran better than Juan. Bobby won a Gold Glove. Bobby, but the selection, the pitch selection, seeing pitches, the confidence, the way, even defensively, I see them a little bit similar. I think Bobby's a little bit more like speedy and maybe a little more athletic, like that. Juan's a little, stronger power hitter. Bobby really never hit home runs in the minor leagues, and then he got to the big leagues, and he just got stronger, and the doubles became home runs. But I mean, he was always a big prospect. But
Bobby was, to me, when I saw him play, you would blink and it was a 3-2 count. It was like he saw so many.
He was at the very beginning of when people started like, giving that credence and saying like, hey, that's important, or this is what this guy's doing is important for the team. Now Juan's doing it, and Juan's getting paid for doing it. Paid a lot of money because he's playing the game at that they're this is what they're looking at for the in the game nowadays. So it's fascinating to see. But I do think if Bobby came along 20 years later than he did, like when Juan came along, it might be a whole different thing. He might be looked at completely different. And actually, someone was just telling me yesterday that they were talking about it on the Phillies broadcast that I think Mike Schmidt and I forget who the other one was saying that Bobby, we've talked about it here, that Bobby is a borderline Hall of Fame guy, and the guy that's going to get some traction. And I've said that for years, that Bobby's going to have a chance, because when people, as the Hall of Fame voters kind of move on and the younger people take over and they're looking at the game a different way, and they start looking, at his at the quality and the different metrics and things like that, and in all the analytical areas, Bobby excelled in those.
He did.
In a time when it wasn't really, relished as it is now. So
Chicks were digging the long ball then.
What's that? Chicks were digging the long ball then. Yeah. So I think we'll see, but Juan does remind me a lot of Bobby, and I think that's and that's a compliment, and I do expect him to get to ramp it up as the weather starts heating up.
I agree. Let's move on to relief pitching. This has been, I know, something you've been wanting to talk about. Let me get your thoughts. I have my thoughts, and I want to get your thoughts on it.
No, I think the one thing I say with relief pitching is interesting. I think relief pitching, I remember talking to a general manager years ago, and they were explaining to me the kind of their philosophy on relief pitching, that basically it's on 1 year, off 1 year. So they like to take the guys that didn't have great years and try and go get them, because they feel like they'll have a good year that year. So they were, making moves along those lines, which I thought was interesting. And I've always thought of that since then. That was years back. I feel like, obviously it's such an important part of the game now, and early this season, it's a very important part of the game, even more so because the guys aren't going as deep in games.
Correct.
And, I mean, the Mets played the Phillies this week. It was Peterson against Wheeler. They both were at like 90 pitches, in the fifth inning. So, you're early in the season. You got two of the, two pretty good pitchers there. Obviously, Wheeler's a Cy Young candidate, and Peterson's a good young arm. But again,
by the way, sort of interrupt you, but even the Dodgers, I just saw this yesterday, haven't had any of their pitchers go past 5.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So you're looking at 4 innings of relief every day. And it's what happens is you start seeing that strain. So, and what I feel like you see in baseball now, because you're getting to this thing, and guys aren't going 2 days in a row, and guys are, it's funny. I was talking to Turk Wendell, who was who was a Met relief pitcher, and one of my old clients, Roger Cedeno, they played together with the Mets in '99. I was still working for the Mets back then, and they had made a bet early in the season, and Turk said that he would pitch more games than Roger would steal bases, and Roger was on pace to steal a lot of bases that year. I think Roger ended up stealing like 64 bases. I think Turk pitched in 82 games. So, I mean, he pitched basically pitching every other day.
Every other day,
and Turk won the bet. Roger owes him dinner still. But anyway, Turk won. I told Roger he's not going to forget about it. You're going to have to take him out. But my point is that, it's a different game now. So it puts a lot of strain on the bullpen. But I think what you're seeing now at this time of year is some of these guys, they look great this time of year because they don't have the mileage that they have. Where are they going to look in 2 months from now? That's going to be a different story because these guys are coming in pitching 2 innings every 2 or 3 days. They're not the same thing. It's the same thing. I talk about this. I don't know if we've talked about it on this show, but like I talk about it all the time with my friends in football. Sometimes if a running back gets hurt and then he comes back in like week 12 and all of a sudden he comes in and he all of a sudden looks like he's running at a different speed than everyone else. It's just because the wear and tear of the season does wear you down. And that happens with relief pitching. And some of these guys, the rubber arm guys like Turk Wendell back, they're not as many of them anymore if there are any of them. So how are these guys going to rebound? These guys that I'm seeing that struggled in the second half of last year, and now I see them out there and they look amazing. Will they look amazing in June, July, and August? And then obviously when the money's on their line, September, October. Yeah. So I think relief pitching is such a key part of the game now, and more than it's ever been before, just for the reasons we discussed. And, like you said, the Dodgers, as great as their pitching is, as their starting pitching is, and obviously their bullpen is pretty solid too after, their signings this offseason and bringing in basically 2 closers to come in and be setup guys for them. That's huge for them. But I think best bullpen wins. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think for me, what's interesting about relief pitching is I think there's a player on every team that you described, right? The other thing that as I was thinking about this the last couple of days, just watching games and listening to the comment about the Dodgers last night, as I did during their game, is that this just reinforces Mariano's greatness, because Emmanuel Clase you couldn't touch him last year. He's getting hit every which way, and he'll be okay. Another one is, Diaz. Two years ago, Diaz was like, you couldn't touch him. Now,
I think there's a point to what the GM said to me. It definitely is true. I mean, some guys, it's just good years and bad years. Diaz had, the year before, 2 years before his good year, his ridiculous year, he really struggled. I mean, he blew a lot of saves. He cost him a lot of games. And then he came up with that year where he was ridiculous off the charts. So it definitely runs in cycles, and guys sometimes do better than other guys, and the consistency being there. But I think relief pitching it's such an underlook because you see these guys come in, they're not big name players generally speaking, that come in the 5th, 6th inning that have to keep that game together and bridge that gap. And those guys are so key right now.
Well, listen, I think they're overlooked by the fans. I don't think it's overlooked by the team.
No, you're right. But I'm talking about from the fans' perspective.
Because
like,
the teams,
you see the names, and you see the names, and they come in, and this guy comes jogging in from the bullpen, and you're like, all right, well, it's 3-2 game. All of a sudden, if he gives up 3 runs, all of a sudden it's 6-2, and all of a sudden it's not really a game anymore. So, but it's true. I mean, but that's just as important as the guy who started the game who's getting paid maybe $100 million, and then a guy who's closing out the game, the Edwin Diaz's and Clases of the world.
Lead the other day, 4-run lead, for the Yankees. So it happened. But staying on topic, Mets Yankees, again, as we mentioned earlier, they're both in first place. Not a whole lot to complain about when one has the best record in baseball, the one's in first place. Listen, both teams, and by the way, this talking about the Mets first, this is without, their third baseman hitting. This is without their right fielder hitting. This is without, not having their second baseman, not having their catcher. It's pretty impressive what they've done, I must say. And I think for them that bodes well moving forward because they haven't even created a cushion because this division is so, it's going to be a good division. But, if you could bury the Braves early and have them have to fight back to get to, first of all, get to 500 and then to get to you, that's a good thing. And I think, for them, their pitching has been phenomenal. The question is, listen, they're not going to pitch to a 2 ERA for the year, right? How does that look like? At some point, is Clay Holmes is not going to pitch 200 innings, right? But to me, you get those reinforcements back, and I'm not even talking about Manaya, who is going to be back hopefully soon. The Mets are in pretty good shape.
Manaya and Montas, but
Montas.
But no, look, I think look, last year, David Stearns and his crew did a great job identifying the guys they want to get. I said it again, this year I think they did the same thing. Unfortunately, Montas got hurt, but they already know what Manaya can do. Holmes, I knew that was going to be a good addition for them. They do a really good job of finding this is the guy that's going to help us, and this is what he's going to do. So I had a strong feeling about him, and I expect him to have a very good year. But you said the pitching has been great. You said it's going to be hard to keep a 2 ERA for the season, but they have a solid team. Acuna's played great. And like you said, Viento's starting to hit a little bit now. Lindor's been, the past, recent history has been amazing. Pete Alonso's had a great start to the year, and then it's just, just whatever it is, a key hit here and a key play there, good job.
For me is speaking to the Mets still, the key is, Pete is playing well when the Mets are playing well, right? That's key because we know that Pete, he's not a 3+ hitter, average hitter. He's going to go through those lulls, but you're getting him at his peak and you're winning at his peak. That's key. That's impressive because, again, he's going to go through that period where he's going to go for 0 for 25. We know that, right? That's what it is. But he's playing and he's getting those hits when it counts, and the team is winning. It's the same thing with the starting pitcher. If your number one starting pitcher is pitching, you want to win those games.
That's right. That's right.
So,
yes.
The Mets, again, kudos to them. They've had a great, first month. And so, we'll see what the next months hold. Moving on to the Yanks. For me, what's interesting is a couple of players. Ben Rice has been a revelation at leading off and DHing. Trent Grisham, again, there were people that were running him out of town last year, and people who were thinking, why are you bringing this guy back? And he's been a godsend, Paul Goldschmidt, another one, just playing as well as he did the second half of last year, which is important, right? So, and then Aaron Judge, of course, he's batting over 400. That's not going to continue. Obviously, that's going to go down. So, you're winning these games. They've had a couple of, not great games lately, but you're winning these games, and you also have Max Fried, who has been everything as advertised. And you couldn't ask for anything more, considering, what you lost during spring training and all these pitches that went down. So for me, that's also been a nice thing to look at.
No, Max Fried is huge. Obviously, he was a huge addition. Not the ideal situation in losing, your Cy Young Award pitcher, but like you said, Max Fried has stepped up his game to this point, above and beyond expectations, and I think he's a talent. Obviously, a talent like that could step up and take that number one that they're going to need. Obviously, not only for the season, but if they want to go far in the postseason. So to have a guy like that was a huge pickup. So that was a great move, I think, on the Yankees' part. I'm a huge fan of Rice. I like this kid. He just seems like a good kid, and looks like he's just having fun out there playing. And he
can speak better Spanish than you.
I don't know about that, but he's Benaras is a good looking player. Obviously, he's an Ivy leaguer and all those things. But what a revelation, like you said, with him to be doing the job he's doing and bringing just kind of a little. You need that spark and that young blood to be mixed into your veteran, stars. So to have someone like that is nice.
No, 100%, 100%. And that he's part of it, which is the next thing I want to talk about, like the first month surprises. He's one of them for me. But they've, the Ben Rices of the world who've just, I don't say came out of nowhere, but has really kind of stepped it up, if you will. You have a lot, you have a lot of teams that I didn't expect to be competitive that are. The Giants are playing extremely well.
Let's talk about that because you got the NL West. Everybody knew the Dodgers were going to be great, and I don't think there's any reason to think they won't be. They certainly will be there in the end, just because their roster is so loaded and pitching and just every aspect of the game, superstars and the pitching, loaded staff and the bullpen. Where are the weaknesses? There are none. The Giants, certainly a surprise team, just stepping up their game and doing what they're doing. And that, you got to give them a lot of credit for piecing that together and getting off to the start they have. Obviously it's a long season, but and when you're playing in your own division, it's and your division is that tough. Will they be able to withstand that? Listen, from what we're seeing early on, it looks pretty darn good. So that's great. But the Padres, that's a team that I thought they were a lot being underrated. And again, when you're in the same division as the Dodgers and the same league as the Dodgers, even it's so easy to overlook the other teams. But the Padres have a really good lineup. We've talked about them in the past on our show. A lot of just, athletes, shortstops and center fielders. And, that whole team is they're just a very, very, very good team. And they're going to be there at the end too. It's going to be very interesting to see how it all pans out as far as the West goes. But, and then, how the East will counterbalance that. Obviously with the Mets, the Phillies, can Atlanta rebound from a really tough start? They have guys coming back too. When they come back, that'll change their dynamic a little bit, and I would imagine they'll be in there too. So, and then and obviously the Central is going to have at least one team in there too, and and who knows? Some of these teams sneak up on you. So.
Yeah, no, that's true. Listen, the Braves are one of my surprises in a bad way. I didn't expect them to be. They're not bad. They're not horrible, but I didn't expect them to start the season the way they did. But I think, listen, it's going to be a dogfight in the National League East, National League West, rather. I'm sorry. It's going to be a dogfight. Those three teams, I don't see them standing down. I think that
and don't forget the Diamondbacks.
And the Diamondbacks, that's another. Corbin.
Diamondbacks could always. They're not far removed from getting all the way. And
their pitching is amazing. That's what I'm saying. If you're coming out,
those guys, and
if you're coming out of there, man, you're battle tested. And
sure.
So I think that's going to help whatever team gets out of that, and makes it. They're going to be battle tested because those four teams are amazing.
Yeah,
so it's going to be
no question.
Really interesting to see, how this, like you always say, how the season unfolds. Let's see what May brings in June. Injuries happen. More surprises. Who knows? So that's going to be really interesting to see what, how that transpires. I wanted to discuss also, before I forget, because it happened in season, was Vlad Guerrero's contract. I have a couple of thoughts on it. First, good for him. Great contract. The structure of the contract was even, smart for him. Primarily because I don't think we want to discuss some of the things that might happen, unfortunately at the beginning of next year, which is a potential lockout. But that's for another day. But I think Vlad is worth the money. I think he was important to the Blue Jays. I don't know if he was as important to another team, whoever would have signed him had he been a free agent. But to me, he had to stay in Toronto. Listen, I'm a Yankee fan. I would have taken him with open arms. But to me, he's like Aaron Judge in that way. To me, he did the right thing by staying in Toronto. Hopefully they're going to build around him, right? What are you going to do with Bichette, who's a free agent as well? Do you keep him? So that's going to be an interesting thing. Just wanted to get your take on that as well.
No, I thought that you brought up some great points. I mean, I thought it was a great contract, great, huge signing bonus. Good for him. He's a terrific player. Seems like a great guy. Don't know him. But obviously the talent's there. Good for the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays finally got their guy. The Blue Jays are always, obviously it's a organization with money. Rogers is a huge conglomerate.
Yep.
Who has a lot of resources. They are in on so many guys, and they're always trying to get these guys to lock in their own guy, like you said, is huge for them. I like to see it. I'm an agent, and you want, of course, go, but you want to use all your resources and go out and check everything out and see where you can get the most money and all those things as an agent. But I love to see a guy who stays home and signs the big mega deal with his team. And it's a throwback to me, back to the old days, guys that would play, forever with the same organization and
Mattingly.
Yeah, but even I'm just saying, like the Willie Mazes and the Hank Aarons, and that played 25 years with Stan Musial, the old timers, Ted Williams, all the old timers, they would play with one organization. There was no free agency back then or anything like that. But it's nice. Yeah.
As an agent, I'm sorry to interrupt you, cut you off on this, but because I just thought of this, there's an importance to that, right? If you are that kind of A-list player, is there when you're in a negotiation with the team, does that come up? Hey, this is a legacy player for your team.
No, of course, if you're negotiating, you're going to use that to your advantage if you can, and obviously the team should recognize that. And again, I shouldn't be saying that, but as far as but it's nice to see a guy stay with his organization and get paid fairly. That's my point. So I think that's what's most important. I love to see it. I think that, but yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's obviously should be known to both sides automatically. I know that's what I would say. I would say,
listen,
this is a guy that wants to, that is here. He likes it here. He wants to be here. Just wants to be paid fairly. We don't have to go to free agency. If we could find, some common ground where we can get a good deal done here that makes the organization better, makes the player happy. And this way he could be, he'll be forever identified as a Blue Jay, and, God willing, everything goes smoothly for him.
Yeah, no, listen, if I'm Vlad, I'm like, wait a minute, you were going to give how much to Ohtani? How much to Soto? Nah, I need mine. There was no way he was going to take a hometown discount, and I wouldn't. And by the way, he shouldn't have.
But the fact that Blue Jays did a really smart job. Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins, those guys up there are good guys, and I'm happy for them that again they've tried with different guys, the Ohtanis and Juan Sotos and stuff, and they've come up short. To be able to get this guy at this time, perfect job, really well done. I'm happy for everybody involved, and it's a good deal for everybody. So
no, that's awesome. That's awesome. But Chris, we're nearing the end of our show, so you know what this means. The Miami Minute, my favorite.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm going to go on the Miami Minute. I want to say something actually. So Miami, we talk about a lot of football. We've talked about Cam Ward, obviously in the news right now. and we'll get more on him next time probably. But what I want to talk about right now is the Miami baseball team. I want to give special credit to JD Arteaga and his crew over there. These guys have had some struggles early on, had a rough year last year, struggles early on. They changed the whole roster over, but they are playing some great baseball now. I'm really proud of JD for what he's doing. He's doing it his way. There's been some criticism. There's been some things said, but he's kind of doing it the way he wanted to do it. JD, for those who don't know him, he's one of the all-time great, probably the most decorated pitcher in the history of Miami baseball. He holds so many records there. He's been a pitching coach there for a long time. He was named head coach a couple years ago. Had a rough first year last year. This year, got off to a tough start. They play a very tough schedule. The ACC is very difficult. Yeah. Baseball is stacked. They play a very tough midweek schedule with a lot of teams don't play, and that always is tough because it definitely dents their record because they play these Florida schools that it's like the 7th game of the World Series to them every time they play. Miami's trying to get guys playing time or whatever, but I give him a lot of credit. He's turned things around. He's on a great run right now. The team is playing great ball. And that's with turning over almost the whole roster. I think they kept 6 guys off the roster of last year, 6 or 7 guys. And I'm really proud of the way JD is handling, is running this team and doing it his way. So congratulations to JD and the Hurricanes team. Hope they keep it going and get back to the tournament and do what they do best.
Wow, that was a very subdued Miami minute.
Well, this is a very near and dear subject to my heart.
I hear you. Well, listen, Chris, this was great today. Again, everyone, if you know anybody, any high school player, any college player, pitcher, whoever, this is the agency to go to. What is it?
Smooth Baseball. It's called Smooth Baseball. And yeah, please, anything, let us know. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. Appreciate all the nice words, Lou, and we'll see everybody soon.